Right. Welcome to this explainer on Module 5 of the EU GMP Annex 1. Today, we're going to unpack the critical engineering utilities that directly protect the sterile boundary of pharmaceutical manufacturing. Look, if you work in pharmaceutical quality or engineering, you already know that the actual product is only ever as secure as the systems surrounding it. So let's just dive right in and look at the physical and mechanical safeguards that keep sterile manufacturing truly sterile. Here is our agenda for today. We'll be moving through 6 key areas: critical utilities, water and WFI, biofilm and endotoxin, steam, gases and vacuum, HVAC, contamination control, and finally, monitoring and maintenance. Kicking things off with Section 1, Critical Utilities and Annex 1. Before we get into the weeds of specific systems, we really need to establish the baseline for literally any utility that contacts our product. Having a shared vocabulary is the first step to consistent contamination control. There are 2 absolute core concepts you've got to understand here. The first is sanitary design. Now, this isn't just about looking sparkling clean. It means your equipment and pipework must be explicitly engineered to be self-draining, entirely free of dead legs, and fully capable of being cleaned and sterilized in place. The second concept is point of use. This is the exact specific location where utility is drawn for use, and crucially, it's where its quality is defined and monitored. Moving right along to Section 2, let's talk about water for injection production. Water is arguably the most critical fluid in any sterile manufacturing facility. It's everywhere. But to really understand water systems, we have to clearly differentiate between the grades. So, purified water, or PW, is controlled for chemical and microbial quality, and it's perfectly suitable for your less critical applications. However, water for injection, commonly known as WFI, is the absolute highest grade of pharmaceutical water. There is no compromise here. It is mandatory for anything that directly touches the product during sterile manufacture. And yes, that includes the final rinses of your equipment. What's genuinely interesting about the evolution in these regulations is that WFI no longer strictly requires distillation. Under the current Annex 1 guidelines, you can actually produce it using equivalent membrane-based processes. This usually looks like a sequential combination of reverse osmosis, ultrafiltration, and electrodeionization. The absolute key word here is equivalent. These modern purification technologies are totally acceptable, provided the final water consistently meets those rigorous WFI quality and pharmacopeal requirements. But look, regardless of the production route you choose, whether you're using a traditional still or a cutting-edge membrane system, the engineering reality on the ground remains exactly the same. All WFI systems absolutely must feature sanitary design. They've got to be continuously circulated to prevent any stagnation, dead legs must be aggressively minimized, and the whole system has to be self-draining. On top of that, these systems are typically held hot or otherwise rigorously controlled to fiercely limit microbial growth. And obviously, they must be capable of being sanitized or sterilized in place. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, biofilm and endotoxin control. You might be wondering, why are those thermal controls so incredibly essential? Well, it's because a water system rarely fails suddenly. You're almost never going to get a loud, blaring alarm that just goes off out of nowhere to tell you something's wrong. Instead, biofilm builds up quietly on the wetted surfaces over time. It establishes a matrix, it grows, and it gradually sheds organisms and endotoxins directly into your water supply. Continuous flow and precise temperature controls are quite literally your primary weapons to suppress this quiet, invisible threat. Okay, time for a quick knowledge check, and I want you to really think about this one for a second. If you know your final product, or the equipment you're rinsing, is going to be subjected to a fully validated sterilization process anyway, why on earth must we monitor endotoxin at the water source so relentlessly? The answer comes down to fundamental patient safety. Endotoxins, which are pyrogens, are notoriously heat-stable. They will easily survive your standard, typical sterilization processes. If endotoxin makes its way into your product, it presents a direct, severe hazard to the patient, causing very dangerous fever reactions. Because you simply cannot reliably sterilize it away at the end of the line, you have to prevent its formation entirely at the source, and you do that by suppressing biofilm in your water systems. Let's shift over to Section 4, looking at steam, gases, and vacuum. Remember, any utility touching the product or product contact surfaces is officially part of your sterile boundary. First up, let's look at clean steam. When you utilize clean steam to sterilize those product contact surfaces, that steam must literally condense to water that meets WFI quality standards. But it isn't just about the water quality. The physical properties of the steam itself are highly regulated. You've got to implement strict controls over the steam's dryness, and you need to make sure that non-condensable gases are tightly controlled. Why? Because those factors directly impact the actual efficacy of the sterilization process itself. The exact same rigorous logic applies to compressed gases. Things like nitrogen or air aren't just piped into the room and forgotten about. Any compressed gas touching the product or contact surfaces has to be pushed through point-of-use sterilizing grade filters. And you absolutely cannot just install them and forget them. These filters must be routinely integrity tested according to a documented risk-based schedule. Furthermore, vacuum and other services have to be rigorously assessed to prevent back contamination. Think about it. If a vacuum system pulls air, you must ensure there is absolutely no pathway for contamination to travel backwards into your clean environment. Moving on to Section 5, HVAC as contamination control. So, shifting our focus away from fluids and compressed gases to the ambient environment itself, you really have to profoundly change how you view your heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. In the context of Annex 1, you cannot view HVAC as merely a building service providing temperature or humidity comfort for the operators. It is an active, primary contamination control mechanism. Your HVAC system is literally delivering the foundation of your cleanroom. It's entirely responsible for establishing and maintaining the required cleanroom grade. It enforces those precise pressure cascades between different cleanroom grades to make sure air always flows from cleaner areas to less clean areas. Furthermore, the system is relied upon to deliver the necessary air changes through continuously monitored HEPA filtration to sweep away airborne particles and organisms. And importantly, both the airflow direction and the system's ability to rapidly recover from a contamination event must be qualified and periodically re-verified. Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, utility monitoring and maintenance. So, how do you actually prove to regulators that all these interconnected utilities are maintaining your sterile boundary day in and day out? Well, you need a highly consolidated monitoring strategy. For your water systems, your primary control is the continuous trending of bioburden and endotoxin, with clearly established alert and action limits. For gases and steam, you're relying heavily on scheduled filter integrity testing and monitoring the physical quality of the steam itself. And for your HVAC system, you must rely on real-time alarms for pressure differentials and airflow to give you immediate warning if there's any loss of control. And this brings us to the single most vital compliance takeaway across every single utility we have discussed today. Individual passing results are simply not enough. A single test only tells you the state of the system at that exact millisecond in time. You must trend your data relentlessly. Trending is what reveals the invisible story. It's what allows you to catch systems that are slowly drifting out of specification long before they actually fail and compromise your product. As we wrap up this explainer on Module 5 of Annex 1, I really want to leave you with a crucial question. I encourage you to take a hard look at your own organization's manufacturing facility. Ask yourself, are your critical utilities, your WFI, your clean steam, your gases, and your HVAC truly and actively engineered to defend your sterile boundary? Or are they just running in the background while you quietly hope they don't fail? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. And remember to keep questioning your controls.